Fact-checked. There are two types of stories I hate to work on. Outbreaks and politics. Guess which story this is? A few days ago, I received one of 3 phone calls from a woman claiming to be the daughter of a friend. Before I started writing stories from paranoid times, I had my share of a number of jobs. Like most people, back then writing was a hobby, a slow one but one either way. Back in the time of forgotten dreams, I worked at a few laboratories, each were on their way to discover the next cure. Every time they would get close to something, the government would rush in with red tape and restrictions of some type. And each time, the experiments would go under government control. I don't like government control of a project that I am working on, so each time it was time for me to leave and move on to something better. Anyone that wishes to fact-check this information, can do so by finding me on Facebook, and then on LinkedIn. Stop by and say hi, you're able. I received the first call the other night. She explained who she was and that my friend was dead. When I asked her where she was calling from, she said that it wouldn't matter before long. Then she continued. Her father's team had been working on a new cancer vaccine, one that showed real promise. Early test and trials showed a rapid decrease in cancer cells. This was amazing, I thought, as I listened to the young woman talk. The woman's voice would go in and out on the phone. At points I could hear gunshots and sirens in the background. She went on to tell me that her father moved on to human trials. Something didn't go right. She tells me it's been just 15 days since the outbreak. She was very vocally worried that whatever this was, it would get out and civilization would crumble. Now, only a few small isolated populations in the town survive. She was one of those lucky ones. Though, perhaps lucky isn't the most accurate word choice, since it's still a struggle to survive. Days after the outbreak, the military marched in, cut phones and the internet. At this point, I asked her how she was talking to me if the phones had been cut. Apparently, her father had an old working satellite phone. She had pieced together old cell phone batteries to power the thing. If this was the case, she didn't have long. All evidence of the incident was swiftly swept under the rug by the local authorities, which then proceeded to set up massive roadblocks around their town, preventing anyone from getting near the site of the outbreaks. Media coverage of the police's and the military's suspicious actions was minimal, with most newspapers and local news channels labeling it as a large-scale influenza infection. The local hospital filled up rather quickly, then the doctors became sick. The most bizarre part of the whole affair, however, was that after gathering the village's handful of survivors, government officials decided to unceremoniously institutionalize them into their own homes. The reasoning behind these seemingly unwarranted lockdowns was never made public knowledge, but despite the government's best efforts, rumors of the murders spread like wildfire across our town. After all, we didn't have the internet, and the next best thing was to gossip. The military rode around in a truck with a loudspeaker, informing everyone in ear's range that they had a vaccine for the issue. I thought this was funny, a vaccine for the vaccine, she said. The nights went on, more and more people came down with the issue. The night's air filled with screams and crying. Groups of people attempted to make it out of the quarantine zone. I don't know if they made it or not. The vaccine was first tested on the army guys. That didn't go well either. After the injections they would get better, then they were like drug addicts after a fix. And their fix was the vaccine, or well, what the vaccine did to the human body, I guess the antibodies it produced. They would get it however they could. She said that she overheard one of the commanders say that if they could get others to take the vaccine, they would have an ongoing food supply. This is the end of our first phone call. Stay paranoid, my friends.